Alex is 27 years old, sitting on the edge of a bed in a rented apartment, staring at a banking app that won't stop refreshing the wrong number. 38. That's the age the average person today actually buys their first home, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that number keeps climbing and what it's quietly costing an entire generation. Alex's parents bought their first home 9 years earlier than Alex is on track to, at roughly the same income, working roughly the same hours, saving with roughly the same discipline. So what actually changed in one generation, and is there anything Alex can do about it? Stick around, because the answer isn't what most people assume. Because Alex isn't lazy, isn't bad with money, and isn't refusing to grow up. Alex is playing an adult life video game where someone moved all the checkpoints without telling anyone. This is the economics of why Gen Z can't afford to grow up. Let's start with the paycheck, because on paper Alex is doing everything right. Alex graduated, got a full-time job, got a raise last year, and still somehow has less breathing room than a parent did at the same age, working a similar job. In the 1970s, one entry-level paycheck could often cover rent, groceries, a car payment, and still leave money to save. Today, that same entry-level paycheck barely covers rent alone in most cities. Wages have gone up in raw dollars. Alex's pay stub looks bigger than a parent's ever did, but bigger number and more buying power are not the same thing. Once you adjust for inflation, real wages for young workers have barely moved in 50 years, even though the price of almost everything they need to buy has kept climbing. It's like Alex is running on a treadmill that quietly speeds up every single year, while being told the belt hasn't moved at all. Meanwhile, the cost of becoming an adult hasn't just gone up, it's gone up in the exact categories young people can't avoid: housing, education, healthcare, and childcare. Groceries and gas get expensive too, but those go up and down with the news cycle. Housing, tuition, and healthcare have climbed steadily, year after year, decade after decade, no matter what the headlines say. So Alex's paycheck is fighting a battle it was never designed to win: flat purchasing power against relentlessly rising costs in the exact four categories that define adulthood. Picture Alex's grandparent buying a starter home in the 1970s on a single, modest income. No college degree required, no side hustle, no two-income household, just one job and disciplined saving. That house cost roughly 2 to 3 times the household's yearly income. Today, in many American cities, a starter home costs somewhere between 6 and 8 times a young worker's yearly income, sometimes far more. Alex hasn't gotten worse at saving. The finish line just moved 3 times farther away. And it's not only housing. A 4-year college degree now often costs multiple times what it did a generation ago, even after adjusting for inflation. Alex took out loans to get the good job that was supposed to fix all of this, and instead walked into that good job already carrying a second, invisible rent payment: the monthly student loan bill. So before Alex has even signed a lease, decorated an apartment, or bought a first real piece of furniture, a big chunk of every paycheck is already spoken for. That's the wage trap: earn more, owe more, keep less, and somehow still get told to just budget better. Economists call this the productivity pay gap. Since the 1970s, typical worker productivity has climbed dramatically, but typical wages have not climbed anywhere close to the same amount. In other words, Alex is producing more value per hour than past generations ever did, and taking home a shrinking share of what that value is worth. This gap isn't a rumor or a vibe, it shows up clearly in decades of wage and productivity data tracked by economists across multiple studies. And because two-income households have become the norm just to keep up, a single paycheck now has to stretch across expenses that 2 paychecks used to comfortably cover. That's part of why so many young workers describe feeling like they're doing everything right financially and still standing still. It's not a feeling. It's a measurable gap between what a paycheck buys today and what an equivalent paycheck bought a generation ago. Let's talk about the number that started this whole video: 38. That's the average age of a first-time homebuyer today, according to recent housing data, up from 29 just a few decades ago. 9 years might not sound like much, until you realize what those 9 years actually cost Alex. Every year Alex doesn't own a home is another year of paying rent instead of building equity, money going out the door forever, never coming back as an asset. Picture two paths side by side: Jaime, who bought a home at 29 in an earlier era, and Alex trying to do the same thing today. By the time Jaime turns 38, Jaime has been paying down a mortgage for 9 years, building real ownership in a home that's likely grown in value the whole time. By the time Alex turns 38, Alex has handed over roughly the same 9 years of housing payments, rent, and owns exactly none of it. Same number of years, same monthly housing cost, wildly different outcome, purely because of when each person was born. It's not that Alex refuses to buy a home, it's that the down payment itself has become its own mountain to climb. A standard down payment used to take the average young saver a couple of years to put together. Today, saving that same percentage relative to income can take the better part of a decade, sometimes longer, in expensive cities. And while Alex is saving, home prices usually aren't standing still, they tend to rise faster than a typical savings account can keep up. So Alex isn't chasing a fixed target. Alex is chasing a target that moves away every single year, on a treadmill that never turns off. Add in mortgage rates that have swung sharply higher in recent years, and the same house can cost hundreds of dollars more per month than it would have just a few years earlier for the exact same price tag. This is the housing wall, not laziness, not bad decisions, just simple math that got dramatically harder in a single generation. It's also gotten harder because there are simply fewer starter homes being built in the first place. Builders increasingly focus on larger, more expensive homes because the profit margin is better, leaving fewer small, affordable options for a first-time buyer like Alex. In many cities, zoning rules also restrict what kinds of homes can be built where, further limiting the supply of smaller, cheaper starter properties. Combine tighter supply with higher demand from a large generation reaching adulthood at the same time. And prices climb even faster than income does. So even buyers who have saved enough often find there's nothing modest left to actually buy. Now picture Alex getting dressed for the day and strapping on an invisible backpack before even leaving the house. That backpack is student debt, and for a huge share of Gen Z, it never comes off. The average borrower today leaves school owing tens of thousands of dollars, and it's not unusual for that number to be even higher after a few years of accumulating interest. That debt doesn't just sit quietly in the background, it actively competes with every other adult milestone Alex is trying to reach. Every dollar that goes toward a student loan payment is a dollar that isn't going toward a house down payment, a retirement account, or an emergency fund. And here's the part that stings the most. Many of these loans were taken out specifically because a degree was supposed to be the safest path to financial stability. Instead, for a lot of Gen Z, the degree became a starting line that was already hundreds of feet behind everyone else's. Meanwhile, healthcare costs have climbed too, and young workers increasingly carry higher deductibles and higher out-of-pocket costs than earlier generations did at the same age. One unexpected medical bill can undo months of careful saving in a single afternoon. So Alex isn't just carrying one backpack, it's student debt, credit card balances, medical bills, and rising rent, all stacked on top of each other, all due at the same time, every single month. It's no wonder that a majority of Gen Z report real difficulty keeping up with bills, and rent. The debt backpack isn't a metaphor. It's a monthly math problem with too many line items and not enough income. Interest on student loans often begins accumulating before a borrower's first real paycheck ever arrives, which means the backpack can get heavier before Alex even starts working. For some borrowers, minimum payments barely cover the interest, meaning the balance barely moves for years despite steady payments. So how did the math get this far out of balance? It's not one single cause, it's a handful of shifts that all landed on the same generation at once. First, in many places, home building simply hasn't kept pace with population growth, so more buyers are competing for a supply that grew too slowly. Second, public funding for higher education has shrunk in many places over the decades, and colleges shifted more of the cost directly onto students, in the form of tuition and loans. Third, healthcare spending has simply grown faster than the broader economy for decades, driven by rising costs of care, technology, and administration. None of these shifts happened because of anything Gen Z did, they were already well underway before most of Gen Z could even vote. Gen Z simply arrived at adulthood standing at the bottom of a hill that previous generations got to walk down instead of up. There's one more factor worth naming honestly: family wealth. Some members of Gen Z get help with a down payment from parents or grandparents, which can erase years of this gap overnight. But that kind of help isn't evenly distributed. It depends entirely on what generation of wealth a family already had, which means the housing wall hits some people in Gen Z far harder than others. Now, pause for a second, because it would be easy to watch all of this and think, okay, so Gen Z is just doomed. That's not actually the point of this video, and it's not what the data says either. Because buried inside all of these numbers is one detail that changes everything about how Alex should respond to this, and it's coming up in just a minute. Let's zoom out and look at what all of this actually does to a life, not just a spreadsheet. Because can't afford a home yet doesn't just delay a house, it delays everything stacked on top of it. The average age of first marriage has crept later, decade after decade, and money stress is consistently one of the top reasons couples say they're waiting. The average age of having a first child has crept later too, often tracking almost exactly alongside the same financial pressure. Retirement planning gets pushed back as well, because it's hard to save for a future 30 years away when the present month barely balances. Childcare costs add even more weight in many places. Full-time childcare now costs as much as or more than rent, making it harder for young parents to work and save at the same time. Each of these milestones used to happen roughly in sequence, on a fairly predictable timeline for most people in a given generation. Today, that timeline has stretched out like a rubber band, and it's stretched hardest for the people with the least financial cushion to absorb the delay. This is why so many people in Gen Z say they feel like they're constantly behind, even when they're doing everything right: going to school, working hard, avoiding obviously reckless spending. The finish line for adulthood simply moved, and nobody sent out a memo. One visible sign of all this: a record share of young adults are living back at home with parents well into their 20s, not out of choice, but because independent living has simply gotten too expensive too fast. None of this means Gen Z doesn't want independence, it means independence now costs more than a lot of paychecks can carry alone. There's a real emotional cost to all of this too, constantly comparing your own timeline to a parent's or an older sibling's timeline, and feeling like you're falling short by a measure that was never fair to begin with. Understanding why the timeline shifted doesn't make the weight easier, but it does take the blame off Alex's shoulders and put it back where it actually belongs on the math. Let's put Alex and Jaime back on screen side by side and run the exact same 27 years of life through two very different economies. Same work ethic, same effort, same number of hours worked per week, only the decade is different. Jaime graduates, gets a job, and within a couple of years has saved enough for a modest down payment, because the target price was roughly 2 to 3 times a yearly income. Alex graduates into an economy where that same target price is 6 to 8 times a yearly income, and student debt is already eating a chunk of the paycheck before saving even starts. Jaime's monthly housing cost builds equity, month after month, in an asset that historically tends to grow in value over time. Alex's monthly housing cost, rent, builds equity in absolutely nothing month after month, for as many years as it takes to save that faraway down payment. Jaime hits the milestone of homeownership around 29. Alex, on the current average, hits it around 38, 9 extra years of paying for a starter kit that's still not fully assembled. Multiply that 9-year gap by the value a home typically gains over 9 years. Jaime ends up with a meaningful head start in total net worth, not because Jaime worked harder, but because Jaime started 9 years earlier in cheaper math. That gap doesn't just disappear once Alex finally does buy a home, it tends to follow Alex for decades, because net worth compounds and lost time in an appreciating asset is very hard to fully make up later. This is the real story underneath. Gen Z can't afford to grow up. It was never really about effort. It's about which decade's math you happen to be born into. So if the math changed, does that mean Alex is just stuck? Not entirely. There are real moves that help, even inside a harder economy. The biggest lever isn't cutting out coffee, it's growing income, negotiating salary, building skills that are actually in demand, and asking for raises instead of assuming they'll show up automatically. Starting retirement savings early, even in small amounts, matters enormously, because compounding rewards time in the market far more than it rewards perfect timing. Employer retirement matching is essentially free money skipping. It is one of the most common and most avoidable mistakes young workers make. House hacking, buying a small property and renting out part of it, has become a popular workaround for turning the housing wall into a smaller, shared climb. Splitting housing costs with roommates for a few extra years, even when it's not glamorous, can meaningfully speed up how fast a down payment builds. Geographic flexibility helps too. Some Gen Z workers are choosing lower cost of living cities or negotiating remote work, specifically to shrink the gap between income and housing costs. Financial literacy itself is a lever. Understanding exactly how student loans, interest, and compounding work turns an overwhelming backpack into a series of solvable monthly decisions. None of these moves erase the structural gap Jaime never had to face, but they do shrink it, year by year, in ways that compound just like debt does, only in Alex's favor this time. The goal isn't to pretend the math is fair. It's to play the actual game in front of Alex as smart as possible, instead of blaming Alex for a board that got harder to win. None of it requires a perfect income or a lucky break. It requires knowing which levers actually move the needle and pulling the ones available right now instead of waiting for the math to fix itself. So here's the big reveal, laid out on one simple chart. In one era, a starter home costs about 3 times a typical yearly income, wages roughly kept pace with the cost of living, and homeownership arrives around 29. In this era, a starter home costs 6 to 8 times a typical yearly income, wages have barely kept pace with inflation, and homeownership arrives around 38. Same effort, same discipline, 9 extra years, and a debt backpack that didn't exist for the earlier generation at all. Fewer starter homes, flat wages next to a productivity boom, and a debt backpack that barely existed 2 generations ago, all stacked onto one age group at once. That's not a mindset problem. That's not a stop buying coffee problem. That is a structural, decades in the making shift in what it actually costs to become a financially independent adult. Remember that number from the very beginning, 38. Now you know exactly what it means. It's not a random statistic, it's the finish line quietly moving 9 years further away while everyone kept telling Gen Z to just try harder. 38 is the number that proves this isn't about effort. It's about economics. Let's recap what actually happened here. Wages for young workers have barely kept up with inflation over the past 50 years, even as paycheck numbers have gotten bigger. Housing costs have climbed from roughly 3 times income to 6 or 8 times income in many places, turning a 2-year savings goal into a near-decade-long one. Student debt now acts like a second rent payment, competing directly with saving for every other milestone. All of that has pushed marriage, kids, and homeownership years later than it happened for previous generations, not because Gen Z doesn't want those things, but because the math changed underneath them. And the 9-year gap between Jamie's path and Alex's path isn't just 9 years thanks to compounding, it can shape net worth for decades afterward. And the good news buried in all of it, income growth, early investing, and employer matching are still levers Alex can pull, even inside a harder economy. If this finally explained why just work hard and save doesn't add up the way it used to, you're not alone, and understanding the actual math is the first real step toward working around it instead of blaming yourself for it. Because once you see the actual numbers behind adulting, it stops feeling like a personal failure and starts looking like exactly what it is: a solvable problem one lever at a time. Subscribe for more videos that break down the economics behind the things everyone feels but nobody quite explains. And drop a comment with the milestone you feel furthest behind on this channel is about to dig into exactly that.